Welcome to another edition of the Will Be Blood Fight Show. I'm your host, Dave Duenas. I want to talk about the Contender Series being picked up by Versus and why it hasn't had so much success as the Ultimate Fighting Series, which has been hosted by Spike Television, and it's been pretty much their home ever since it's been premiered by them. Where the Contender Series has been dropped already by two other networks, which was ESPN2 and I believe NBC. But now it's being picked up by Versus, and is it going to have any success now that it's found a new home to be premiered on? I want to go right down to it, which is why it hasn't been successful is because there's a lot of reasons that have to do with it, okay? One of the main reasons is because of the over-dramatic sequences that it shows when the fighters are in there, and how repetitively they show the same punch over and over but in different angles, where they think they're going to fool a true fight fan that's in a boxing. Well, we know that that's not the way boxing really is and stuff. It's not a movie. It's a real lifestyle of fighters and stuff. Another thing too is, with the Contender Series, you have a lot of B class, C class fighters that we know for a fact that are not going to have really great success when they really step into the elite world of boxers, okay? Where, these guys are going to be facing really true world champions that have kind of already went through that work rate and road to make it to the position that they're at. All right, so a lot of fight fans get turned off by that. The other thing that I think that really turns off a lot of fight fans from the series itself is, what they try to tend to do is make you believe that there's going to be a superstar that rises from this series, okay? Like the Ultimate Fighter series, where those two sports alone are just completely different, The success of the Ultimate Fighting series, it's been successful because not only is it hardcore MMA fight fans watching it, but then you have these non-MMA fight fans that are watching it religiously too. So you're having two groups of people that are watching it religiously, all the time. Where in the Contender Series, the hardcore fight fans are not even caring for it. They're anticipating the real matches that need to be made. Where the casual fan that are just kind of just scrolling around in the television come across it and decide to watch it because there's nothing else on television, and they end up getting hooked on it, which is a good thing. But it's only a certain group that's supporting it. Now, that's where it kind of backlashes in our sport, because we need to support it as fight fans. We should support it, but it's just so difficult to support something that we know is it's already based out of a lie. I mean, if you're going to do a series of that magnitude, then you might as well put real prospects that are looking to make it, not guys that have been in the fight game for some time and have really. Once they step into a higher lead of competition, they're going to be, blown out, and because we've seen it over and over and over, okay? We've seen it with Manfredo, we saw it with K9, we saw it with Alfonso Gomez, Sergio Mora squeaked by, just barely against Vernon Forrest and all that. And really, I think with Vernon Forrest, it was more Vernon Forrest letting that fight, letting Sergio win that fight than himself. He didn't train for that fight. But anyway, that's besides the point. My point is where the Ultimate Fighting is, you can have guys try out for that sport and make it and be really successful and become an elite fighter out of that series, okay? Where the Contender Series, you're not going to get neither one of that, okay? And unfortunately, in boxing, we don't have any Kimbo Slices. We're not going to get a guy that, is able to download his fights on YouTube and become an overnight sensation, that doesn't happen in boxing. That's not the real world in boxing, and that really separates boxing from Ultimate Fighting or MMA, where you can have a good punch game and have a chance in the UFC or the X-Elite or whatever you want to get yourself into. You may have a chance, regardless if you don't know any grappling or if you don't know any ninjutsu. But if you got a good stand-up game where you can at least damage the other guy, you have a shot of maybe winning and becoming a household name in that sport. Where in boxing, you could be the biggest guy. We've seen it. Ty Fields, was 6'8", ex-football player, gets into boxing late, and then decides to step up in class against Monte Barrett and gets blown out in the first round. Where in boxing, you know that's not going to happen. And if it does happen, you're going to become more of a freak show, a 4-rounder king like Butterbean, okay? So that's where I think the Contender Series is stopped at, where the fans are just not in tune with it. They don't feel that this is really helping out boxing. Remember, anything bad publicity is always good publicity when it comes to our sport. We need that, okay? We need everybody as a fight fan to support it, regardless if you know that it's a fluke, that it's not going to be any good, okay? Because that's what keeps up the series. And the more and more that you support it, the more and more networks and producers and directors and investors are going to say, wait a minute, there's something here. You're getting numbers, okay? I want to add on with that is that, let me show you what the possibilities is, okay? When the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl that had happened, it had over like 9 million viewers or something like that, right? It was the biggest viewers in network, right, of all times. Do you imagine if we had that Oscar De La Hoya versus Mayweather on a free network television? That would have been a bigger event. It would have made more numbers with people viewing it and stuff, you know? The problem is that we're not giving the networks a reason to put our fights on free TV, okay? They're limiting us because we're limiting ourselves as the viewers. We're being ignorant by saying we're not going to watch the Contender Series. We're boycotting it. Let's stop doing that. Let's support whatever is put out for boxing so that boxing can always be put out there as one of the best sports. I'm not saying it's better than every other sport. I'm not saying it's better than UFC. I'm not saying it's better than football. But this is our sport. This is the sport that I love. This is the sport that you love. So support it regardless of what you may think you need to support it. Thank you for joining me for another show of There Will Be Blood fight show, and I hope you tune in again with me.